Hello, everybody, and welcome into the Wood TV Plus studio right now. Phil Penarski here, joined once again with Storm Teammate Meteorologist Blake Harms. Blake, we had to bring you on, not just because we missed you here on the digital studio, but for the fact that we are in store for some pretty heavy winter weather that is headed our way through much of West Michigan. We've been kind of talking about it really all week long, especially on the Daily 8 on Wood TV Plus. We are on all sorts of different platforms right now, making sure that everybody is aware of what's in store. So, Blake, before we kind of jump into that, how are you doing? Thank you so much for stopping by.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, you know, it's been a pretty quiet January up until this point. So we're going to be turning the page now as we head into the next few days. So we're ready at Storm Teammate for what's heading our way.
Yeah, definitely. We know Storm Teammate is ready, and obviously, like you said, hasn't really been too crazy of a January yet, but now we are really in store for some weather. Again, Blake, I'm just going to get out of your way and let you take it over. Again, if anybody's watching and you've got questions, if you're watching us on Facebook and YouTube, please leave your comments and your questions down below. We will get to as many as we can over the next 30 minutes that we have Blake here. So, Blake, without further ado, what are we kind of looking at right now?
Yeah, so we're tracking our first disturbance that's going to be sweeping through tonight. So you see a few lake effect snow flurries over us right now, really nothing heavy, but that wave that you see from the Upper Peninsula stretching down to Iowa, that is what we call a short wave trough. That's a fancy word for basically a burst of energy that will be enhanced as it crosses Lake Michigan tonight. So that's going to be the first wave. You see a second wave up there across parts of far northern North Dakota into Canada. That's a second wave, and you see even another one behind that. So we'll have several waves of energy sweeping through over the next 36 hours or so that will provide several boosts of snowfall, again, as it crosses Lake Michigan, and as a result, the snow is going to start to stack up beginning tomorrow morning. Now, we do have a winter weather advisory that has been issued. That is for all of the Lakeshore plus Kent and Newaygo counties. Goes into effect at 10 p.m. tonight and continues through 7 a.m. Saturday. Not really expecting heavy snow, I think, until after midnight, and in some places it will take even longer than that. But the wind's going to be out of the southwest in this event, which means that basically that's where the heaviest snow is going to be blown from, the southwest to the northeast. So we had that event back in December where the heaviest snow fell in Grand Haven, Muskegon, up toward Pentwater. Going to be a similar setup this go around, not exactly the same, but a similar setup where the heaviest snow is going to be north and west of Grand Rapids. Into much of the day Friday. So, of course, as you talk about school closings, this is a tricky one. The timing has been hard all year. We have yet to get one where the timing lines up perfectly on a weekday and the amounts are just right. There are definitely some nuances with this that keep me from thinking that school closings are a guarantee. Right. Do think the snow is going to arrive in some spots before the morning commute, which of course helps in some areas. It's going to be heaviest in the morning north and west of Grand Rapids. So we're talking parts of the Lakeshore, including Ottawa, Muskegon, perhaps Newaygo counties, Oceana. That's the area I think we're most likely to see school closings if they were to happen tomorrow. And the real million-dollar question, of course, is does the snow start dumping in time? That's kind of been the crux of a few predictions that have gone bad, is the snow just hasn't started in time. And so it's really going to be timing out that wave of energy as it moves down.
Yeah, and I can imagine you're probably already getting pestered with questions from people asking, hey, am I going to be off from school on Friday? Do I get an even longer weekend with the MLK Junior holiday happening on Monday as well? I mean, I could assume your DMs are probably blowing up a little bit right now.
You know what's funny, Phil, is the last few years, we've had an Arctic blast right around this time. So the schools that have been scheduled to be in session on MLK Day the last 2 or 3 years has been a snow day.
Yeah.
So this is keeping in tradition with right around this weekend, we get a burst of some Arctic air. And you're exactly right. There are a lot of folks and kids and teachers wondering, are we going to get an extra long weekend? I think it's a chance, but again, it's not a guarantee. So if we look at Futurecast, you can see that wave of energy moving through tonight. So once we get toward midnight, I think is when we'll start to see some of the snow affect the lakeshore. Now, you'll notice you see those little lines are a little hard to see. It's essentially showing where the wind is coming from, and you can see them moving from southwest to northeast, and you see that heavier band of snow that's oriented from about South Haven up through let's call it Comstock Park up to White Cloud. That's that southwest flow lake effect, or lake enhancement, I should say. So as this burst of energy comes through, lake will be adding some moisture and producing heavier snow up there. So that's where we're most likely to see some decent snowfall rates through the morning commute. It actually looks like the heaviest snow during the day tomorrow is going to be from about 9 a.m. through, let's call it 2 p.m., you'll notice there's a good chance that most of West Michigan sees steady snow around the midday time frame tomorrow. And then that continues right on through the afternoon, make it a brief lull, and then more snow's on the way for Saturday. In terms of how much snow is expected beginning tonight, continuing through, let's call it 7 a.m. Saturday, we think 5 to 8 inches is pretty likely for parts of western Allegan up through Ottawa, Muskegon, Oceana, and part of Newaygo and Kent counties. So again, I just want you to focus on the fact that with that wind coming from the southwest, that's going to blow that heaviest snow up along those parts of the lakeshore. 3 to 5 inches expected further inland, so west of Kalamazoo, west of Ionia, and then 1 to 3 inches further inland. Roads are likely going to be slick just about everywhere. The good news for tomorrow is temperatures are going to be up near freezing.
Right.
So that will help. But regardless, I do think the morning commute is going to be very slick for parts of the lakeshore, especially if that snow can get going early enough. And of course, that's always one of the hardest parts of these predictions.
Yeah, no, obviously a lot going into kind of just making sure everybody is aware of everything that's going on. I got to say, Blake, Grand Rapids smack in the middle between those two different points right now. I mean, are we maybe good to guess kind of closer to that 5 range then?
Yeah, I'm thinking somewhere, I think we'll end up, I could see us realistically being somewhere between about 4 and 6 inches.
Right.
That'd just be just the way I look at it. And there will be a cutoff to some extent. There have also been events. There's January 23rd of last year, not that I remember, was actually the same week as MLK last year. We had a southwest wind lake effect event, and it ended up producing snow a little further east than we thought. So the wind was a little more westerly than we thought. That did push some of the heavier snow into parts of Kent County. So that is within the realm of possibility.
Yeah.
Of course, that would then raise school closing chances there. But where we're most confident it's going to happen is basically west of 131. But you're right, Grand Rapids, as is so often the case, will probably be right in that transition zone between the heaviest snow and maybe missing out on some. But even you know, much of Kent County likely to see at least, I think, 3 inches of snow by sunrise Saturday. So.
All right. Well, again, and everything kind of kicks off later tonight, early Friday morning. So, again, when you're making those commutes, something to keep an eye on, something to keep in mind. And, again, stay with us here at News 8. Stay with Storm Team 8. They're going to have you covered throughout the duration of not only today, but really the whole weekend and into next week,
Yeah,
too.
I'm glad you bring that up because we have more on the way.
Yeah, exactly. This is just the first part of it, really.
Yes.
Well, guys, kind of the middle. I guess it kind of started yesterday a little bit.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. The main difference is everyone's going to start to get it. You know, it's going to spread the love a little evenly. Speaking of which, so I'm still working on the map. Gotta look over the forecast data again this afternoon. Like I said, I think the highest school closing chances for tomorrow, not a guarantee, are going to be northern Ottawa, Muskegon, Oceana, and western Newaygo counties. Now, if the snow ends up coming in a little earlier, if the wind ends up a little more westerly than southerly, then we could definitely start to see parts of Kent County, Grand Rapids area, northern Kent County be pushed into that. But just the way things are leaning now, I think places like Grand Haven, Spring Lake, possibly Coopersville, Fruitport, Ravenna, Grant, Oak Ridge, those areas probably have the best chance. If they're going to be school closings tomorrow, that's where they're most likely to be. Now, if you miss out Friday, good news, it's going to stay cold and snowy all next week, pretty much. In fact, Monday and Tuesday look brutally cold. Wind chills potentially as low as 10 to 20 below zero.
Wow.
So that will probably be enough for school closings in some capacity for the schools that don't have Monday off for MLK Day. And there are some. It's in the minority, but there are some. And then the snow is going to continue as well, especially Sunday night into Monday. Then we keep seeing snow to some capacity into Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And with the cold temperatures sticking around, school closings will be possible each day. So not a slam dunk. I'd be surprised if this turns into a week of snow days. But I do think the chance is there every day enough to want to check the night before each night. So definitely going to pick up.
Yeah. Could you imagine being a kid and getting a whole week off from snow days?
I
don't
did.
think I grew up in Memphis. I did not have that luxury. I don't think we ever ran into that issue. But
my freshman year of high school, it was 2013, 2014. We had our second snowiest winter ever. And there was one point where we had 5 snow days in a row. It was a Friday and then a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
Wow.
And I got to tell you though, Phil, and I hear this in my comments too, when like last year there was another stretch of where a lot of schools had, 4 days off. They're ready to go back.
Yes.
Once you get like 3 snow days, and especially when you combine that with a weekend, most kids, especially the parents, are ready to get back in school.
Yeah, get back into that routine a little bit, right?
And the good news is a lot of schools have days to give. So most districts have only had one snow day this year.
Right.
So that definitely lessens the tension of that conversation of, well, if we close, we have to start talking about makeup days. The state has allowed them to build in 6 days into their year. So a lot of them still have 5 to spare. Now, of course, there's a lot of winter left, but they're all sitting
not a
pretty
lot
well.
of winter.
True.
There is a lot of winter, I know, but hopefully there's not.
So a lot of schools are sitting well position-wise, and there are a few schools like Hamilton and Saugatuck who haven't had a snow day yet. So that may play into some decisions next week as well.
Yeah. Real quick, Blake, we do have a couple of questions both on Facebook and YouTube that we want to get to. Obviously, for everybody watching, if you do have questions for Blake, I don't know why you'd be asking me a question, but if you maybe have a question for me as well, definitely leave them in the comment section. We'll try to get to as many as we can while we're here. Blake, let's start on Facebook. We've got a couple of messages. One from Linda. Linda, thank you so much for watching. She's hoping that not a lot of snow or wintry weather is headed towards Branch County.
Okay.
Can you comment on that at all?
Yeah, Branch, I think, is going to be away from the worst of the snow.
Right.
It's going to be one of those where you're more likely seeing flurries and light showers.
Yeah.
The heaviest snow is probably over the next week is going to be between, I'd say, the 131 corridor and westward. So basically think Kalamazoo, Grand Rapids up to Newaygo, over to the lakeshore. That's where we're likely to see the heaviest snow over the next, let's call it 6 days. Not to say Branch County won't get much, and Branch County is usually not protected from the lake temperature-wise.
Right.
So those coldest wind chills next Monday and Tuesday are likely to be felt down there. So it's kind of a catch-22. You're going to probably miss out on the heaviest snow, but the coldest temps and the coldest wind chills are likely to be down there for early next week.
Yeah, definitely. All right, well, again, another question we've got is, will the heaviest access be displaced inland? They mentioned a little bit about like the winds not forecasted to be that strong, but the models seem to be showing slightly higher inland, a few miles away from the lake shore. So you can answer that one, Blake.
Yeah, that's a good question. It definitely, I think it's a possibility. The good news is that the wind doesn't look too terribly strong. It is going to be breezy tomorrow morning, wind gusts to 20 to 30. So it may be displaced a few miles inland, but it's one of those scenarios where, like, if you are in Holland, if you're in Grand Haven, if you're in Muskegon, even if you miss out on like the heaviest from one event, there are so many waves of energy passing through over the next 6 days that this is one of those where like the snow is just going to be continuous. I could see the scenario in which the heaviest snow is displaced just east of US 31. So central Ottawa, central Allegan, central Muskegon, western Newaygo. But even if that's the case, and you're in Holland and you don't see the highest amounts of West Michigan, you're still likely to get some significant snow over the next week. So one of those, that's a good question. And the wind is going to pick up at times next week to where maybe they will miss out on the highest totals. For now, we kind of just put them in all the same general area where you just know that if you're right along the lakeshore, maybe in that 5 to 8 inch range, you may end up closer to 5 inches than 8. So that's a good question.
Yeah, no, and those winds, again, next week is when we're really going to be feeling that wind chill. Scott Larson was in on the Daily 8 today, and even just the lows themselves were into the single digits. And then you add on the wind chill. I mean, negative 15, I think he said, for one of those days is what it could feel like in the afternoon, not even in the morning.
And for us, anytime it gets that cold, that means it is definitely cold enough for lake effect.
Right.
So that's where it's kind of a two-pronged deal for early next week.
Yeah, no, and this might be one of the first times when, salt might actually not be as useful as maybe it would be if the temperatures were a little bit lower. We kind of ran into that a little bit last year as well.
And when it gets too cold, or when it gets that cold, the snow becomes a lot dustier, and that makes it easier to blow around.
Right.
So that's when we tend to see higher travel impacts, and like you said, pretty much nothing melts when temperatures are in the teens during the day. So
yeah, Blake, I would say maybe want to go back to one of the maps to show just how much snow, because we've got a couple of questions about the snow total. So I think a map might be the best way to kind of re-emphasize what you're going to be talking about. We've got questions about how much snow around 8 a.m. in Grand Rapids tomorrow.
Good question.
And then we've got a couple of other spots, but we'll start with Grand Rapids.
Yeah.
I mean, by 8 a.m., around when people are starting to leave for their commute, I mean, how much snow are we going to be expecting in our neck of the woods?
Yeah, good question. I'm just going to run through Futurecast real quick just to give you a general idea again. So you see that snow A lot of this is pretty light. Anywhere you see the light blue, that's really just flurries or light snow. You start to see those darker shades perk up on the west side of Grand Rapids overnight into early tomorrow morning. Now, in terms of the morning commute, there may be a bit of a lull. We talked earlier about how there are several waves of energy rolling through. You can kind of see the first wave over on the east side, the second wave over Lake Michigan. That would be good news for the morning commute for us if we could get that lull. So I would say in Grand Rapids by the morning commute tomorrow, that's a tough question. I would say probably around an inch, so not a lot. I think the heaviest snow for us comes just after the morning commute into the early afternoon, and then we'll see several more waves kind of push through into Friday afternoon and evening, and then again by Saturday morning. So this is about a 36, or let's call it a 24-hour snowfall total. We're looking at somewhere in the ballpark in Grand Rapids of probably in that 4 to 6 inch ballpark. West side expected to see more than the east side, but not a ton of snow by the morning commute, but probably still enough to cause some slow travel in spots.
Yeah, no, it's the afternoon, late morning, afternoon when we got to really start kind of being aware of the roadways. And, you know, this is a great map to kind of give a look out for Michelle's question. Michelle's asking about Holland and kind of what they're going to be expecting. You can kind of see you guys are in that pinkish purple fuchsia kind of color where you guys are probably going to be looking at 5 to 8 inches just from Friday to Saturday.
Yeah, and Holland's one of those areas where I think they'll be hit by that southwest lake enhancement. And so there's probably gonna be a stripe of heaviest snow from somewhere in the area, and this is generally speaking, somewhere between about Holland or Port Sheldon Township up through, let's call it Coopersville up to Ravenna, possibly up to like the Newaygo area. Somewhere in that general vicinity I think is most likely to see the heaviest snow. We're talking totals up near those 8 inches.
Right.
And it's TBD whether that includes Holland itself. There is a chance. Otherwise, it could be displaced just a little further north and east, but that's something we'll be watching. Holland does have the potential, to see 6 inches or more of snow.
Yeah, no, and again, a couple of other questions from Levi and Mandy. They're both asking about Ionia as well as Berry County. Again, a good map. Get you just to look at over just the next day or so, but maybe even into the future. We've got Jackson asking about Allegan County in particular over the next 6 days. I know it's a little ways away, and there's going to be a lot to talk about over these next 6 days.
We talked at the tracking center yesterday about how do we break up the snowfall because it doesn't really stop. So we decided 24-hour increments, kind of taking it one day at a time. In Allegan County, I think there's a pretty good chance for double-digit snowfall totals over an extended period, beginning tomorrow, continuing through Tuesday. So that's not to say it's going to be heavy all the time, but it will be one of those that keeps stacking up day after day after day. Double-digit snowfall totals are likely in Allegan County with more than a foot possible between Friday and Tuesday.
Right. All right. Well, something to keep in mind. Again, Kathy commenting an emoji, a very displeased emoji, I'm assuming. I'm right there with you, Kathy. I promise you I am not as happy as I'm sure a lot of people. The outdoor sporting events, the outdoor sporting community, people that like to go skiing and, snowmobiling, they're going to love this probably.
Oh, yeah. It's just great to build up a snowpack. I've had questions about ice on a lot of the area ponds. The hard part is the snow's going to fall on top of that ice and insulate it.
Right.
But these cold temperatures will help to start to rebuild some of the ice on many of the inland lakes that have lost it over the last week or so.
Yeah. All right. Well, Blake, anything else that we need to be kind of aware of, or at least, especially over these next couple of days? Again, we are expecting a lot of people to be having an extended weekend a little bit, maybe getting to avoid Monday's commute and everything like that.
Yeah.
But again, this is going to be something that is going to be something to keep an eye on for a really long time, really into next week.
Yeah, and I think the worst commute to me looks to be Monday morning, and that's just looking at the overall. And so it's good that not everyone will be in. Especially a lot of schools being off. But as you kind of plan your week out, I think Monday morning's probably going to be the worst, at least the way it looks for now. I know it's still 4 days out.
Yeah.
And that's going to be because of a combination of really cold temperatures and that falling snow. That's likely to continue into Tuesday. We'll have to watch the snow chances into the middle of next week as well. Bottom line, it's a good week to stay weather aware, just especially if you're a little hesitant about driving out in the wintry timeframes, because it's not going to be snowing heavily all the time, right? There is a way to kind of plan it to where maybe you can get out and about when the roads aren't so bad. But there will be periods of hazardous travel beginning at times tomorrow morning, continuing right on for about a week. So
yeah, and I'm not just saying this, Blake, because we're really good friends and, we work together and we're all part of the same team here. But honestly, if people can just wait or give, you guys at Storm Teammate 3 minutes here and there for the newscast, you're going to be so prepared. You're going to get everything you need to know. And then, of course, even if you maybe miss a newscast or miss the weather hit in that newscast, just head on over to our website, woodtv.com. Tons of information, tons of great stuff there from Storm Teammates. Just make sure everybody's weather aware and as safe as possible, really, over this next little stretch.
Appreciate that. Yeah, it's just, like I said, knowledge is power, especially with this sort of deal. And it's not going to be anything we haven't seen before. But this is kind of different than what we've had in that we have snow chances each day on the 8-day forecast. Yeah. So it's just, we're going to be one of those where you're probably, if you're along the lakeshore, especially west of 131, you're probably going to be pulling out the shovel or snow blower for a long stretch. Yeah. It's gonna be a little while.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Well, terrible news for me, I'm sure, and I'm sure for a lot of people watching as well. We do have a one last question for you, Blake. Some people, and it's kind of a fun one actually. Okay. Not a whole lot to do with the amount of snow or the cold, or really. But what percentage of ice coverage is Lake Michigan at? Do you know off the top of your head, or would you be able to check for us real quick?
Yeah, I can look. I know it's low because
really? I was gonna say, it's been kind of mild, honestly. I don't want to say that. I'm knocking on wood right now that it doesn't flip the script on us like it's going to next week, but I can't really remember. And we've seen a lot of videos from people out by the lakeshore. It doesn't really look like there's a whole lot of ice out there.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. Our sky cams show almost none, like in South Haven. The fact there's almost none. I'm trying to see.
A very low percentage, I think.
Very low percentage. Yeah, I'm gonna have to. Let's see. Maybe I can find it here. It's very low. The total Great Lakes ice cover is 5%.
Wow.
And lake temperatures in the center part of Lake Michigan are still close to 40 degrees in a few spots. So I really don't think my guess would be all of the ice that's currently present, pretty much all of it, is up in the northern part of Lake Michigan. Yeah. There might be a little bit down by Chicago, but total Great Lakes ice concentration is 5%. And that number is going to grow a lot in the next week. So it's low.
Yeah. All right. Well, great stuff. Blake, thank you so much for stopping by. I'm sure a lot of people, including myself, got a ton of information out of this. And again, if you don't remember anything else from this stream, just remember that you can always stay up to date and weather aware just by heading on over to our website, woodtv.com. Stay on our social media pages as well. We're going to be bringing you all of the latest coverage, making sure everybody is as safe as possible over the next couple of days. So, Blake, thank you so much for doing that. And we look forward to seeing you and the rest of Storm Teammate working really hard over these next couple of days, I'm sure.
Thank you, Phil. It's going to be fun. School closing prediction will be out at woodtv.com by 5. Yep. And then we'll have a little more on that coming up on the 7th. So if you have a vested interest in school tomorrow, you just saw a lot of it, but there will be that coming, and there will be predictions probably all of next week as well. Yeah. So,
all right. Well, great stuff. Blake, thank you so much for stopping by. And I do want to thank everybody so much for tuning into this latest edition of the Wood TV Plus Digital Studio. I'm Phil Pinarski, hoping that everybody stays safe out there and probably, hopefully, really warm as well. Yeah.